So today we are talking about criminal trials and specifically the direct examination or examination in chief. The first piece that we need to review is beyond a reasonable doubt, or the concept of beyond a reasonable doubt. We also need to know which side is responsible for proving beyond a reasonable doubt that the guilty party both committed the act and had the intent to commit the act. So actus reus, or the physical act, or mens or mind, the intent to commit the act. The Crown holds the entire burden of proof, all the responsibility to prove without a doubt, without any doubt whatsoever, for the jury or the judge to determine that both those elements of the crime have been fulfilled. So the line of questioning goes this way. If we take a look at the examination in chief or direct examination, the first perspective I'm going to look at is the Crown. And the person that we are questioning today is the old woman in the shoe. So I have made a copy of the old woman in the shoe, and we're going to take a look at this. So the Crown's goal, to prove using witness testimony. And in this case, we're going to use the testimony of the neighbor, the next door neighbor. That the accused, and this is the old woman in the shoe, or let's just say the old woman, actions meet the requirements of both mens rea and actus reus. So we have to see through some sort of intent or some sort of omission or some sort of criminal negligence or neglect that the old woman is responsible in this case for something happening to someone. Let's take a look at the facts we have in the case. There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread, whipped them all soundly, and sent them to bed. Those are the facts of the case. So, during direct examination, this is your witness. This is your opportunity to have your witness tell their story. You get to control the story or narrative. So you want to let your witness explain their side of the story in as much detail as you possibly can. Avoid yes or no answers in this case. Let's take a look at the questions themselves. Let's take a look at the questions. So first of all, you are trying to prove in some way that the old lady both committed the physical act of whipping her children and had the intent to do so. So the questions all lead to some way of the neighbor being able to explain themselves. The neighbor being able to explain themselves and how they think the old woman in the shoe both committed the crime and was negligent in caring for her kids. So first question, could you please explain your relationship to the accused? Could you please describe the times you have seen or heard the old woman's children being whipped soundly? Describe how close your house is to the old woman's and describe how close your room is to the children's room. We know he is the next door neighbor. Give a description of the time you hear the whipping of the children. And we know that down here, it's right around bedtime and definitely after broth time. After broth time. And then finally, the real seal the deal question for this one. Why do you think the children are screaming? So you see how it was enforced or reinforced in the two questions. There was definitely whipping that was done, and that there's a series of events. Now the repeated way in the repeated routine that the woman goes through every night of feeding her children and then whipping them shows a pattern. It shows a pattern of behavior that you want to reinforce by putting in there a couple of times about how many times in a row those children were whipped. So that's perspective number one. Perspective number two is the defense side of things. The defense side of things. So what you are trying to do in perspective number two, the defense, is you're trying to create some sort of doubt. Some sort of doubt in the judge's or jury's mind that the woman intended to do this. That the woman intended to do this. That's all you have to do. You do not have to come up with a defense yet. You just have to create doubt. So we're pretty sure that the children are being whipped every night. So then we rely on the intent side of things. So you try to create doubt and you try to create sympathy for your witness. So you can start to ask the woman questions like, what is it you want most for your children? And we can determine from the testimony that the woman has a house, so she probably has a job that she has to go to. She is able to feed her children, and she's able to have some sort of routine that reliably gets those children to bed every single night. Because sleep is very important for parents and children. Very important for children, so she has to do that. So we talk about her house, and she can talk about how proud she is about her house. She can talk about how hard it is. We don't see that there's any sort of partner in this relationship, so she might be, and is probably, a single mom. And she might be working to get a new job. She might want a new job so she can afford more. Maybe she can afford some child care. So you want to create some sort of level of sympathy toward her. So you are trying to sow doubt as to the intent of the woman to do harm to her children. And that is a look at the two sides of how we handle examination in chief or direct examination.